Welcome, amazing agents from across the United States. Today is October 19th, 2017, and this is Mastermind call number 148. And we do have one person in the queue. As always, we got time to talk to anybody that needs help, wins, struggles, anything you want to share with the group, anything that the four of us can help you with. Please participate. Just hit *6. And then hit 1, and we do have one person in the queue now. Now, Tom is not here. Tom's on the road this week, so let me go around the horn with my illustrious partners and Tim. Tim, anything you want to share with the group?
I think you wanted to start with the most illustrious, right?
I thought that's what I said. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it didn't come across quite that way.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
As we were talking before we started, I spoke today with Paul, who's one of our literally oldest subscribers, probably our oldest subscriber, and he and I have been friends a long time, and he actually is my realtor as well, but he was sort of our first guinea pig, if you will, and we sort of did some stuff around his approach to doing business, and we used to kind of refer to him as the lazy agent because he really wouldn't do anything. He'd kind of send letters out and hope that they'd call, and eventually they did, and he was making money doing it, but over time, I've kind of gotten him cranked up, and he's doing some other stuff. Well, anyway, I spoke with him this morning. He had called me, and he said, hey, we just did an investment deal together, and he called me, and he said, hey, would you go on Zillow and, do a review for me? And I said, sure, I'll be glad to do that, and did. And he was just talking to me about what he's doing and how he's doing it and how much more a factor in his business probate has become. He's done 27 transactions in the last 12 months that are, documented transactions that he's put up, and he's actually done more than that because some of his investment stuff is not showing. But the point behind the conversation was the Zillow piece of this. And for any of you who are have not done this already, one of the things you need to go do is make sure that you're taking a look at your Zillow profile. And if possible, you need to make some reference in there to your focus on probate because that's one of the places that people go look for you. And we looked at what he had online, and he's making a few changes to that as well. So, you may love Zillow, you may hate Zillow, but the issue is that you got to be aware of what's going on there, and people do look at it because they're spending millions of dollars drawing eyes to them. So make sure your Zillow profile is up to date and make sure that it speaks well to your business and make sure you get people to do good reviews of you. That's what people are looking at these days.
Yeah, well said. And if I remember correctly, I think Paul was the agent that about the middle of last year, his probate business kind of came to a grinding halt, and he couldn't figure out why. He was using but he noticed other agents in the office starting to take probate listings that never had before. And he started using his office number on his advertisements, and agents are not always scrupulous at sourcing where the business came from. So he actually found out that if the people didn't ask for him, whoever was on floor at the office was getting the lead that he had generated and listing the property. So that was kind of another lesson we learned from him. You're probably better off using your cell phone or at least a dedicated line that you're going to get that business. And once he corrected that, I think he started doing very well again. So
yeah,
good story.
Point. Probate is definitely a pillar of his business, and I think he said he's done 9 transactions so far, something like that, that are probate related this year. So he's very he's a very good subscriber and doing the stuff that he wants to go do, but more importantly, I kind of monitor what he's doing to kind of keep my finger on the pulse a little bit there, and that was an interesting point that he made about Zillow. So make sure you do that, and good point about the cell phone, because yes, that is what happened to him. He was getting bagged at the front desk.
And is he still consider himself lazy, or has he started making the phone calls?
No, he's actually making the phone calls now, and he brought his daughter into his business. And his daughter is dialing for dollars for him, and that has markedly improved his business. And he and I worked a good bit on working on his referrals a bit more and some incentive programs to do that. And I think we'll, at some point, put some of that information online for some of the things that we did, not just for probate, but for his overall business.
Excellent. All right, great tips. I know he's illustrious. Our trainer, Chad. Anything? I'm getting a lot of questions about the next probate mastery, as always. And anything you want to share?
I'm trying to find 3 days where I can do it. So thanks for your patience, guys. It's conference season, so I'm going to be in Dallas next week, Chicago the next, and Florida the next. So I'm trying to find 3 days where I can have consistent. I've unfortunately tried to do it from hotels before, and I can't always trust the internet. So watch your email. I may end up doing an evening class for the first time instead of a midday class. I'm trying to juggle flights and get everything booked, and in the next few days I'll announce the dates of when we can get it in. If anybody wants to sign up now, what I'm doing until we get it scheduled, if you sign up now, I'll go ahead and send you the September recordings, and then that way you can get a jump start. And whenever I have the class booked, I'll register you for the live sessions, and that you can always come in subsequent months as well. That's not the ideal answer, but it's the best I can do right now. So if you want to get signed up, you can do that on the left-hand sidebar of subscriber portal. You can click on Probate Mastery and sign up, and I'll send you the September recordings immediately. And within the next few days, we should have the live sessions scheduled.
Excellent. Anything else you want to share, Chad, or that's it for now?
I think that's all. That's it for the day.
All right. Tom, our customer service person, Tom, and partner is on the road today. He always reminds you if you need help with any aspect of our service. I probably get 5 calls a day that were meant for me that end up with we now have 4 partners and 9 employees, so we have 13 extensions when you call, and really the quickest, most efficient way to get help with anything. You can always call, but if you just go to our website, hit the Contact Us button, or go to support@alltheleads.com and just be very specific about what you need help with. We all read that, and the best person to help you will usually get back to you within minutes. You know, we're really kind of fanatical about getting back to people very quickly. So I will say that on Tom's behalf, and we do have 2 people in the queue. That's a good start. We have room for many more, so again, hit *6 and hit 1 if you'd like to actively participate, and let's go to the first one up this week. Phone number ending in 4100, you're up first.
Hi, Gail Rossetti in Menlo Park, California. So I'm one of those people that started about 3 months ago. I'm actually on my 4th month. And I talked with early on, like my first 3 months ago, this woman, what happened was she lived with this older man, and she ended up having the will that said that she could own the property. Well, when they opened probate and they were going to court, all the people that the older man once relatives contested the will. And so that's what they're doing right now, and they're doing all kinds of things to, make her move out of the place and whatever. And my question is, she said, her lawyer said, let's, because they really do have a will. They have another will showing that she is entitled to the property, but it looks like it's going to be a dog fight. So she said, you know what, Gail, what if we brought in an offer where actually the buyer would pay my commission, because now it's with the probate attorney. Would that be possible? And so that's my question. Would that be possible if I could do that?
I'm not sure I'm clear on. Can you go through that one more time?
All right. So
she doesn't want to keep the house. She wants to sell it.
But she was the personal representative, and when they opened probate, the relatives came in and they started to contest the will. They said that he had dementia or whatever. And so she just recently found the original will in 2013 when he didn't have dementia. But she's saying that it's going to cost her a lot of money, lawyer fees, to go to court to get her to have the ownership of the property if she could negotiate it out, because it's not really habitable. I mean, I couldn't lease it for her. I could sell it, because there's so much mold and just a lot of stuff there. Could I just give to the public, probate public administrator, an offer?
Well,
Because
it's
now
still not going to clear. So the challenge here is a will has to be validated as part of the probate process, and she's going to have to go through that regardless, because you're not going to be able to get title insurance on that at that settlement until you can close the chain of title. And I've actually had this happen before. If you remember what I think I told this story in Probate Mastery, I had a family member come out of the woodwork. He had actually signed himself out of the will, so we had in writing. He took a buyout. They said, okay, well, if you can't wait for Dad to die, here's $10,000. Sign this, go away. And he had done that probably 10 years prior. He came forward and contested the will when we were in escrow, and the title company froze in their tracks. They wouldn't issue a binder. So the attorney and I had to draft the big scary letter, and he disappeared real quick once he got our letter. But he was BSing. It sounds like this family is really contesting the validity of the will.
Yeah, they are. They're wanting her to pay rent ever since the deceased passed away. And
yes,
1900, and I wrote a letter saying that it's not worth 1900.
It doesn't really matter.
Which I didn't know, maybe I missed this in our class, is that the minute he passed away, about 30 days later, city appraiser comes in and reappraises the house, and they appraised it at $900,000, which it's not really worth that because, it's not.
Well, you got an aggressive government there in Florida. Sometimes it takes years before property gets reassessed. It sounds like they need the money. Their budget they must be over budget or something to reassess something that quickly.
California, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So she's thinking, oh, let's just put in an offer, Gail. That's what her lawyer told her. But you're saying that the chain of title has to be figured out.
But who's the buyer when you're saying put in an offer? Who's the buyer?
An investor. Cash offer.
So you can do that. I mean, it's just going to complicate. It's probably going to further complicate the overall proceeding. So he won't be able to close, or he or she, the investor, won't be able to close. But you can get a contract in there and have something. You can have something else on the table to talk about. But they won't be able to get title insurance. I think it's my understanding that anyone with knowledge of a will dispute has a legal obligation to tell the title company, and that's how mine stopped. Like the attorney said, we got to tell him, man, this guy wrote us a letter. So that's just based on my experience. You're probably not going to be able to close even if you get that investor offer in there. And I'm trying to think of the benefits of having that versus not having it.
Yeah, Jen, I was going to...
Well, can I just give you a little bit more complication of it?
Yeah, Tim had a comment, and Gail, I was going to just ask you real quick. Do you have the property listed?
No, because
the only benefit of sending a contract in is to show, you're the one that they should list with, but it also might sabotage you if you send in a real low investor offer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think I would, if I were you, I would go get it listed. She's the legitimate heir. Get a listing. Get a 9-month listing in case.
But she's not the personal representative anymore because of the contesting of the will. So they gave it to the public
let's talk about that.
But here's what happened. So they want her to pay rent, but there's no money. He has no money in a bank account, and they needed to do an inspection. So she brought the city inspector out, and the city inspector is going to charge them $200 a day unless they clean up the backyard and put everything. There was like a garage that went into room and just all kinds of things. So she really shot herself in the foot, and now she's asking the courts to get $150,000 to clean it up and to pay the taxes that are due as a result of it being reassessed at $900,000.
So a fiduciary is now representing.
That's right.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Jim's right. You should get the property listed because at some point it will sell to somebody when this gets sorted out. And if you're putting this energy into it, you should have something in the game, right? You should. Yeah. So if I were you, I would get the fiduciary's name and an address, and I would go see them in person. And I would say, listen, I've been working with the family. I understand this is really complicated, and I can make your life a lot easier as far as real estate's involved. This is a listing agreement that I had drawn up, but I didn't have her sign it because this was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can sign this, I'll go find us a buyer, and then let them coach you through stuff too. Like the question that we haven't been able to answer in confidence, like is there any benefit to having an offer on the table while this is going on, or should you kind of sandbag those offers until the smoke settles? But if I were you, I would get in front of the fiduciary with a listing agreement and try to solidify your position in the mess, since you've already invested time and energy into it.
Okay.
The other question, Gail, I was going to ask is, has there been any definition about what the family's looking for other than money? I mean, they're literally nobody wants to move into the house. They would like to get it sold and they just want to get paid. Is that pretty much the way you see it?
Yeah, they're in Germany and one's in Canada.
Okay, so that's also additional hair on the deal. But let me just ask this. If you, in this discussion that you have with the fiduciary, one of the questions that you could ask is if the family could agree, potentially putting an offer on the table that says, okay, look, there's a will, there's obviously going to be, you're just going to spend money on a lot of attorney bills and all the rest of this. What if we put an offer together where there are proceeds in this, everybody wins, everybody gets some money? Is it worth putting that together? And if so, then you've got a legitimate reason to do it and say, I've got these in my pocket, we're ready to go do this, and we can find such an offer. But you need to determine what their motivation is other than just money. Time may be of the essence as well. So coming to the table with quick money may be there, but you got to find out their motivation too. And having the opportunity to talk with them is important.
How could the fiduciary go to court and ask for that money? I mean, I'm seeing that this person is pretty short-sighted instead of just listing the property and getting it sold, unless she's directed by somebody to do that. What is the situation there, would you say?
They're not going to, I know the market a little bit in that community, and it's not going to move very quickly. Obviously, the fact that you've got a trash problem in the backyard, that's a pretty high-end marketplace to begin with. They're probably unhappy neighbors around it to begin with who are putting pressure on that. They'll go to town council meetings and all that, but they're not going to do anything quickly to move on her to get this done. And the fiduciary isn't going to care. I mean, even if they lien the property for the repairs or anything else, his job is just to get this done and get it over with, and you want to help him do that. He's getting money along the way.
Yeah, okay. So now I know the direction to go. Oh, it's awesome. Thank you.
Gail, and I always feel whenever we get one of these questions, like we had one a couple months ago where the executor had murdered their parents, and I said, oh, my gosh, we come up with some – when we have one-offs like this, I'm always compelled to tell new people on the call that are maybe getting a little bit scared. These kind of situations are 1 in 100 or probably 1 in 1,000. This isn't common. Usually it's a relatively peaceful process where everybody's anxious to get their money. They split it up and move on. But it's you are going to run into them, and the fact that you're willing to put the extra effort into it, speaks volumes. So come back next week.
I'm learning from it, and that's just going to bring me in a better place for the next probate that I have. So it's all good.
Great attitude.
Sure.
Thank you.
The next one will be a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely. They'll all be uphill from here. They'll be much easier on the next one for sure.
Awesome.
All right. So we have one other person in the queue. We've got room for many more. Hit *6 and hit 1. Otherwise, hopefully we have a long question from someone else, it looks like, in California. Phone number ending in 2042. You're up next.
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Dan Collins out of Sacramento, California. How are you guys today?
Excellent, Dan. Thanks for participating.
Well, thank you. My background is since 2009, I've been a court-appointed receiver, and I've done a lot of work in trust litigation to do with real property. And I'm breaking into the probate portion of the business. And I have recently invested in a bunch of equipment with the attorney that I do a lot of trust litigation work with, and I'm interested in interviewing people, or rather brokers, that are part of the All My Leads community, to interview them about their transaction work in probate, to elicit stories that focus on how you've helped probate administrators with special circumstances that may have been uniquely attributed to the transaction being a probate sale. And if people are willing to allow me to do a podcast interview with them, I can do it via Skype, and I can get the interview transcribed. I can get you a copy of the podcast, and you can post it on your website and use it for marketing. And my reason for doing this is I'm preparing to write a book on probate sales and trust sales, and I'm just looking to gather up more stories that I can tell in my book.
Yeah, Dan, we really appreciate the offer. Let's schedule a call for you to talk to our partners. What I'm thinking also, the first Thursday of every month, we have an Ask the Expert call. We've had an estate sale company. I forget what the second one was, and we're getting ready to do that again. So you might, attorney was the second one. You might be a really good person to come on, and I know we have one of our subscribers, I don't think he's on the call, Bill Bird in Southern California, that started out as, a normal agent doing probate, and he has made friends with several people like you, and probate, he did $750,000 in probate business, and it was mostly from, the court-appointed, trustees that are now giving him business, because he made a good impression on them. So, yeah, that's awesome. We would like to, if you would, send us your email. Just send it to support@alltheleads.com. Send us your email and your phone number, and we get off this call, we'll schedule a time to talk to you, and let's put together a plan. I really appreciate the offer. I think it could benefit everyone, and anybody who participates, that certainly is going to brand you as as it gives you extra credibility and brand you as a probate expert. So, good publicity like that helps everybody. So we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Any comment you'd have to offer about the circumstance that Gail was just expressing, where, if you've acted as a fiduciary, have you got anything to add to what we were mentioning to her?
Well, I guess I would start off by saying that all the advice that you gave her is spot on, and it's all good advice. But Gail, I think that really the situation that you've got going on there is no shortcut, and you do have to have that will validated. But there actually are things that you could do to motivate that fiduciary. And if you'd like to get into greater detail with that, that's fine. The other shingle that I carry is I'm a licensed general contractor. But when you get in, you were speaking about the violation with all the trash in the back, and I've done a lot of work with code enforcement officers, and you can use them to your benefit, and that's what I do in the receivership world. By way of example, if I've got a tenant that's not paying rent and where they're living doesn't meet minimum housing code, these guys know that they can get away with not paying rent because their place doesn't meet housing codes. So the way I deal with that problem is just what you did, but when you invited that person from the city to come in and take a look, or whoever made that invitation, those things can blow up on you. And you want to have a game plan and understand what your objective is, but when you invite them in, there's going to be consequences, and sometimes that can really hamper you.
Okay, great. And do you what's the motivation from and this is, it's unique sometimes in different states, and you may not be familiar with what's going on, particularly in Menlo Park, but what's the motivation from the fiduciary? Are they paid strictly based on closure? Are they getting paid for their time? Does the fiduciary have an incentive to speed the process along, that kind of stuff?
I would say quite the opposite. The fiduciary does not have any motivation to speed the process up, and they typically will do whatever is safest, but time is not something that factors into their level of concern. Neither, frankly, are costs. So, those are about the worst people that you want to get involved in these situations. But, that's what you're saddled with. And there are ways that you can force them to start getting interested in timing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and that's kind of where I was going with this. Again, having some familiarity with that community there. A lot of times, the folks that are in those roles, those are somewhat coveted positions occasionally in communities because they get paid for, maybe not moving as quickly as they could. And I'm certainly not trying to diss people who work real hard to do good jobs, but I know the same thing applies here in Florida, where someone will be assigned to that position, and that automatically adds another 3-4 months to the process just because it's now moving through all those wheels, and they're in no big hurry to get it done. So if there are things that you can, if you want to interact with our community, one of the things we'll certainly talk with you about when we talk as partners is, offering some meat that we can put out there to help people move this process along should that happen. I want to add one other thing to what Jim said, and this is kind of back to the disclaimer. We're spending a lot of time on this because anything that happens like this, we'll always get real interested in having good discussions about it. But like Jim said, this is like 1 in 1,000 that this usually doesn't happen, and will contests are rare, and they're not quite so rare sometimes in more expensive properties, but generally they're not there, and you need to just focus on getting your numbers going well. But this is a great conversation.
Well, and the one thing I would add to your comment there is, on the flip side, from the fiduciary's perspective, that's a job that comes with a huge amount of liability, and that's why they're not motivated, or really, that's why they're not motivated to act quickly, because it's safer for them to act diligently, and taking their time with that is really to their benefit. And it's important that you understand that motivation about their job.
Cool. That's great info, for sure.
Yeah,
excellent.
Thanks so much for stepping up, Dan.
Dan, we got your phone number. Send us your email also, support@alltheleads.com. And sounds like you might be our Ask the Expert for the first week of November. I think that'd be a great, very timely time to bring someone like you in. I really appreciate your contribution.
Sure.
All right, sir. Well, we have no one else in the queue, guys. I'll give it a few more minutes. Somebody else. This is unusual because our calls usually go at least an hour. Has anybody had a win they want to share with the group? See, all I had to do is ask, and I got 2 more in there. Thank you. Wins, challenges, things that we can help you with, places you're getting stuck, help with the scripts. Nothing is out of bounds. And if you're first time on the call, these calls tend to attract a lot of the newer people. Marcus Hines is up next, but he's the exception to the rule, or somebody who's doing well who keeps coming back and contributing. So, no questions out of bounds. Okay, good. The queue is filling up. I only had to ask once. Marcus, you're up next. Phone number ending in 1138.
Hey guys, how are you?
Great, Marcus. Thanks for participating.
Right on. A contribution tip is what I've realized is that using our database to make individual calls versus putting all the leads into an auto dialer is a game changer. So I'm not sure if everybody's doing that, but taking the leads and putting them into an auto dialer like Mojo, absolute game changer for how many people you can be on the phone with and make connections with.
Okay. What's your call pace? Like, how many people can you speak to an hour now? Have you tracked that?
Yeah, so in an hour, made 56 calls. It wasn't even an hour. That was, but you can definitely make 80 calls in an hour and have 10 to 15 conversations.
And are you leaving voicemails for the ones that don't pick up?
I'm not leaving voicemail. I haven't gotten any callback or any positive feedback, so I just kind of avoided that. But
okay. What was your voicemail?
My voicemail was more so like a friend. Hey, this is Marcus. When you get a chance, if you wouldn't mind giving me a call back at this number, looking forward to talking with you. And I just
and you didn't have callbacks.
They're seeing my name on the mailers and just kind of leaving my name out there.
No, that's what I would recommend.
Go ahead and leaving voicemails.
Well, yeah, I mean, the voicemail script you just shared is what I would have recommended you do, something casual that doesn't go into a whole lot of detail. But the dialer, you're using Mojo, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so you can pre-record a voicemail and just click a button and leave it. How often? Well, let me ask you first. What's the call sequence? Or if you don't speak to someone, are you calling them back the next day, the next week?
Going with about 2 times a week, trying to space it out. Some of the people who I have gotten in touch with, I get mixed results. So it seems like if they see your number and they see it on the caller ID, or you're calling a cell phone and you call too much, right away I've gotten text back like, hey, if you weren't so pushy, I get that, or hey, if you just let people call you back, you might get a better response. So I've gotten a little bit of that. So just kind of taking it. So I'd call. So I'm going to call all my probate leads today that I haven't gotten a hold of, and then I'll probably push them off for like a week.
Marcus, does Mojo? I've never used Mojo, but do they have the ability to automatically leave a voicemail if it goes to voicemail, or do you have to manually leave it each one?
I think that you have to click a button for it to send. You might be able to. You might be able to send it to everybody who doesn't answer, leave a voicemail.
Because I've heard of people do that. Yeah, and the thing that I would say, your generic email was great. I used to do one that was generic but a little more specific. I'd say, hey, this is Jim. I was calling about your property in Florida. If you're interested in selling that property, give me a call. Just very, didn't say if I was a realtor, investor, just acknowledging that I was calling about real estate. That worked pretty well for me. But I was just thinking, don't change anything you're doing if you're getting that many contacts in, but maybe record something and that would allow you to do both, without losing the efficiency of the live calls.
And I would say a good rule of thumb, Marcus, is if you're going to call them back within the week, don't leave a voicemail. But if it's going to be, a lot of folks on the call are making their calls once a month. So if you're calling once a month, you should leave a voicemail, because you're not, it's going to be a month before you have another chance to touch them. So because of your call frequency, I think the way you're doing it is probably the right way. So you're not leaving a voicemail they're not getting 6 voicemails a week from you. So, you're going the approach of call until I speak to them and play them with the frequency. Maybe it's twice a week. Maybe it needs to be once a week. For other people on the call, if you don't have the bandwidth or the diligence that Marcus has, if you're just making one phone call, I would say always leave the voicemail.
Okay. All right. So space it out for what feels right and go ahead and start leaving voicemail. Kind of casual. This is Marcus, and I was just calling to have a conversation about your property. What voicemail have you found worked the best?
The one that worked best for me, Jim gave you his. The one that worked best for me was, hey, this is Chad. I sent you a letter last week. I'm just following up to make sure you got it and you understood why we sent it. Give me a call when you have 2 minutes. 555-1234. And that was it. And just like Jim said, I wasn't Chad the realtor, not Chad the investor. I'm just Chad. And I sent you a letter. And what I found is pretty much everybody that called me back had gone and read the letter, and so they had a good idea of why we were going to have the conversation. So the ones that do call you back they're already pre-qualified. They know what you're going to be talking about. They know what you can offer, and they pretty much turn into listings within 48 hours.
Want to make sure that you got it, and call me back when you have 2 minutes to talk.
Yeah, there's a written script in step 3 of Fast Track. Okay. There's a Word document in there. If you just go to the end of the video and the files pop up below it, I have a Word document in there with that on it.
Okay. Call me back when you got 2 minutes to talk. And okay, so and here's the thing. It seems like no matter what, once we say that this is Marcus and I was calling, so here's where I'm getting hung up. I'm getting conversations now using the Mojo dialer, and I'm getting people on the phone. And as soon as they hear the word probate or that I sent out a letter, what was it about? Man, they're just activated. So it's like no matter what, they're going to know that we're pretty much calling about the house and we're pretty much calling to get something out of them, and I can't shake that vibe. Well, I hate to say that out loud, but it seems to be difficult to shake that vibe. So is it just a matter of breaking down the resistance of the people who don't hang up the phone, just kind of like, okay, well, now I know what time to reach them and what number to use and call back in a few weeks, and what I'm taking notes in my database is they answer the phone around 1 p.m., and I'm going to call back and just say, hey, last time we spoke, you sounded like you were a little busy. How are you doing today? And just kind of breaking that down, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something that works, right? There always is. So I think your mindset's good. Like you're just trying new things, and that's what we have to do, especially if you're in a really competitive market. The only way to know what's going to work in your local market is just don't be afraid to try stuff, and you're really good about that. And thanks for always stepping up and sharing this too. If when you get a chance to talk to the ones that do stay on the phone with you, you want to focus on learning as much about your competition as you can. So are they investors? Are they sending postcards or letters? Are they also making phone calls? Like every time you speak to an executor, find a way to ask, have you guys talked to anybody else? Have you heard from anyone else? Have you met with anyone else? Like find out as much as you can. And the more you learn about what other people are doing, the better you'll understand that resistance that you're meeting, and you'll know how to deal with it, right? So if they're getting 24 letters and or postcards and they're all from investors, then you need to lead with a differentiating statement that says, I'm not an investor. If they're getting beat up by realtors, you need to lead with a differentiating statement that says, I'm not an investor or a realtor. I'm Marcus. And so the more you understand where their apprehension is coming from, the better you can kind of craft your language to make it work. So anything you can learn from the ones that are engaging with you will help you do that.
And Marcus, you're still wearing your Hawaiian shirt, right?
I just put it on because I knew you guys were going to hold me accountable. I'm getting ready to hop on my Mojo dialer here in a minute, and I wanted to be ready, man.
The thing I was going to add too, Marcus, we've talked about this so many times, but you could also try the answer that we suggest when somebody says, I've got it all handled.
Yeah.
Say, oh, okay, great. Well, I was just checking. I wanted to make sure, so you went ahead and changed your insurance, right? That'll usually get their attention. What? I didn't know I needed to change my insurance. Maybe before they hang up, throw some question at them that you kind of know the answer to, that'll insinuate that maybe they need you more than they think they do.
And what is that portion? You change your insurance?
Yeah, Chad has said before, when someone says, oh, I got it all handled, he said, oh, my attorney's got it all handled. Oh, okay, so he's already switched your insurance to a vacant house policy, right? And that almost never happens. If the person died and the property's been vacant for more than a month, their insurance and the house burns down, they're probably not covered because you're obligated to change it from a dwelling, from a home, from an owner dwelling policy to a vacant house, and almost nobody ever does. So
I wonder if that'd be a good message. Like, hey, I sent you a letter, and one thing I didn't point out was had you guys changed your insurance to a vacancy policy? I wonder if that'd be a good message to leave.
Heck yeah, try it.
Yep.
I mean, it's shocking news to most people. Like they don't know. I mean, most people have never had a vacant asset just sit there. So it's a real good way to show them that, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. I hadn't even thought of that. And there's other things. If you look on our in the Facebook group, Marcus, probably 2 weeks ago, I gave somebody like 5 things along these lines, like hit them with respond with one of these 5 things, and insurance was one of them. There's others there, but take a look at that. But I would try that in your message. Be like, listen, most of my name's Marcus. I'm a probate specialist in the area, and most of my clients who are representing estates have vacant real estate. And I'm not an insurance agent, but one of the first steps that we do is make sure people that the assets are actually protected. Give me a call when you have a second. And you're that disclaimer in there, you're not trying to sell them insurance, but you're a probate professional in the area. And that's going to create a lot of curiosity. They're going to be like, well, what does he mean, insurance? But if he doesn't sell it, why is he calling me? And it's probably a really good way to start the conversation.
Got it?
Are you taking notes?
Yeah, I'm taking notes. Okay, I'm gonna create a message, and I'll use that in a little stopper for when I got everything covered. Thank you, and try to shake off the phone. Can we role play real quick?
Let's go.
Do you have time for that?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. And actually, can I be a prospect for when I'm bumping up to, and you be the caller?
Sure. You want me to be you?
Yeah, be me.
Hold on, let me go get my Hawaiian shirt.
Yep. Go put your shirt on.
All right. Ring.
Hello.
Hi, is this Marcus?
This is Marcus.
Hey, Marcus. My name's Chad. I had sent you a letter last week, and I just had a few minutes at my desk. I wanted to follow up and make sure you got it and you understood why we sent it. Did you remember seeing that?
What was the letter about?
It was about, so we have a team here locally. We help families who are going through the probate process, and there's a lot of different things we can talk about. But
okay, well, let me stop you right there. I got everything taken care of on the probate. Everything's good.
Oh, perfect. So you've done this before?
We've got an attorney handling everything, and they got everything covered.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. That's how most of our conversations with our clients start, because a lot of people expect the attorney to do a lot more than he or she is tasked with doing. Just for example, I mean, is there any real estate in the estate, and if so, have you gotten a vacant policy in place? So if there's a total loss on the house, the estate's protected.
I'm sure he's got that taken care of. He comes well recommended. Thank you for your calling.
Well, that's actually not part of his responsibility, and he wouldn't have done that. There's not a checklist for that. So one of the first things we do with the families we help is make sure that the assets are insured. We're not insurance agents, but we partner with them. And that's usually one of the most surprising things. The family doesn't realize that 80% of the wealth is tied up in an uninsured asset. So, we sell homes, we bring buyers, we buy houses in-house sometimes, but the bigger picture is, we try to understand what your position is and where we can give you some help, and we do that in any way we can. And really think about our service as a supplement to what the attorney can't or isn't willing to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I appreciate your time, though. We got everything covered. I'm a little busy now.
Okay. Well, call me back when you realize you're in over your head. Fair enough?
Yeah.
I'm still in role play.
Man. You would actually say that, huh?
So it's probably the last time I'll ever speak to you.
Mm-hmm.
So if I need to be that abrupt, I'm going to be, because it's probably my last opportunity.
Mhm. I guess you just.
So you blew me off. I tried to help you, and you kept blowing me off.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm gonna take one last chance to try to disrupt that state and get you to engage with me. Otherwise, you probably never will, anyways.
And so you got someone on the phone, and if you kind of get a feel for if there's a property or not, would you call that person back even though they were blowing you off?
I would. I might call back, and I honestly would end it with that smart-ass comment. And I would call back in 2 weeks. If I called back, I would say, hey, this is Chad. I'm sure you remember talking to me. I just wanted to call and see how much you've learned over the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Call me back if you feel like you're over your head.
I guarantee, like, if it's been a month, they've learned. They had problems they didn't know. And so I would, and again, to get them to engage with me, I would be abrupt, and I would say, I thought I'd call and see how much more you'd learned about the probate process in the last month. Maybe you can teach me something. And if I can just get him to engage with me, then I'll soften that up and I'll turn it into a relationship. But if I've just got seconds to get attention and to get a conversation, I'll take what I can get. I just need him to pay attention to me.
Yeah. Got it. Okay.
All right, but Marcus,
think about good online advertising. It's got to be something that grabs you, right? Interrupt, engage, educate, sell. So sometimes you have to interrupt them before they'll engage with you, so you can educate them and then sell them something. And it's phone sales it's almost the same way. Like sometimes you just have to have that loud, flashy beginning to get them to participate with you.
And one thing that I feel that I'm not doing well enough is that when I have them on the phone, and I'm going to remind myself right now, is that I sent you a letter. It's regarding the different steps during the probate. How are you doing? And just kind of more so go into how they're doing and having a conversation around that to look to steer and guide the conversation away from any sales talk.
No, that's good. I mean, some of the, one of the greater intros that we've discussed on these calls is, kind of introduce yourself and say, we help families who are feeling a little overwhelmed by the probate process, and we just try to proactively reach out because we know we can help. What's been the toughest thing for you guys so far?
Can you say that one more time?
So, what's been the toughest thing for you so far? Or what's an area where you could use the most help? Oh, you want me to start over completely?
Yeah.
So we have a team of people here locally that help families in probate because we realize how hard it can be. So as part of that, we proactively reach out to people to see how we can help. What's your biggest challenge right now?
Or what's been the toughest thing so far? Whatever you're more comfortable with. And Marcus, I feel compelled, like I did with the first question we had today, to tell if you're in Boise, Idaho, you probably never get these objections because you're probably the only one calling them. But you are in by far the most hyper-competitive market in the country, and these things that you run into, everybody's going to run into them sooner or later. You're just going to run into them a higher percentage of the time because you are in a hyper-competitive market, and that's the reality. The good news is when you get paid, it's about 10 times higher than somebody who's got a house in Boise, Idaho. So, a little bit more challenging, but it's a bigger payoff when you get a sale.
Stay with it.
I think, stay with it, my friend. Great job.
I like that.
Anything else?
Proactively reach out. We reach out to people to see how we can help with what seems to be trouble so far, and then if they got everything handled, I'm going to use the great. Did your attorney make sure that you switched the insurance policy to a vacancy policy? So as a stop the mindset of we have it handled. All right, I'm going to try those two. Thank you, guys.
You're very welcome. Thanks, as always. We have one more person in the queue. Last call, if anybody else would like to participate. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up with our last caller. *6 and hit 1 if anybody else wants to jump in. Otherwise, phone number ending in 9363. You're last up this week.
Great. This is Al calling in South Jersey. I have a very quick question. A couple of weeks ago when I was driving, I heard something mentioned about maybe it was a trifold for attorneys that was going to be posted somewhere.
Yes, sir.
Could you direct me? I'm currently both on the site and on the Facebook page under files. And if you could just once again go over where I might find that.
So if you're in the subscriber portal on the left-hand side, you'll see a mailbox motivator, and underneath that, campaign setup. And you'll find all the letters and brochures and trifolds and everything in the campaign setup page, on the campaign setup
mailbox
page.
motivator, campaign setup.
And scroll to the bottom.
Okay.
Got it?
Very good. Got it. Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, and you were so quick, we had someone else jump in the queue. So one more, phone number ending in 8245. You're up next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Can hear you great.
Okay. I got a quick, this is Liz Welch in Tampa. Hey, I got a quick question on these. In my probate leads, I've got 6 different times that I've received leads for the 2 counties that we're getting. And we're sending out, we're doing the work, we're sending out the letters, we're doing the calls. But in the my question is, when am I going to be able to search at the probate leads dashboard level into all of my campaigns based on a phone number or an address? I have a woman who just called me. I have the property address, I have her name, I have her phone number, and I have to go through each individual campaign to search for the property and the information on the probate. When are we going to have that available to do it at the high level, where I can put in one search field for all my campaign my leads?
I think that's a question for
Tim.
No, yeah, I followed it. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, so you're asking, when are we going to add a feature that you'd like? Is that your question?
Yes, and I heard a while ago that it was being worked on and coming soon.
So
yeah,
Tim,
okay.
it's working in the new version.
Yeah, it is.
Am I in the old version?
Well, I'm not sure where you are or any of that. And Chad, you may even know more about this than I do. I haven't looked in a bit.
Yeah, so right now we're testing. We kind of rolled Probate Plus and those new improvements into the same CRM. We're testing with more than one thing right now, so it will be in the next rollout. We don't have a hard date for that right now. Hopefully within the next month.
Okay.
It was kind of rolled into a bigger, a bigger project. I will check with Paula and see if we can flip the switch on that sooner than we get.
I'm doing that right now, actually. I'm doing that right now, hopefully to be able to answer that.
Yeah.
So the answer, Liz, is we hear you, and thanks for asking. We'll get it done as soon as we can.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Tim is checking. He may get an answer in real time. Otherwise, that is our last person in the queue, last call, if anybody else would like to jump in. And, Tim, you want me to give you a second to check on that, or you'll just
Nah, I asked. I think they're probably grabbing lunch today. They had some people in the office. I think they're grabbing lunch together. So we'll have to answer that, and we'll try to answer it next time. But I've asked the question, and we probably can do that and potentially separate it out. We did, as Chad said, have it all in sort of one release, and we just were waiting to try and get some of this done. But I think that one I know is separated and testable.
Well, and
anyway, we'll let you know.
I appreciate you checking into it. This is a high-class problem to have.
Indeed it is.
Good. I love it. Thank you, Liz. Appreciate you bringing that to our attention. We'll get right on it.
Thank you.
All right. Great call, guys. As always, tremendous participation. I want to really thank everybody who showed up on the call today. I want to thank everybody who took the time to participate. And as always, I'm kind of a broken record. I always end these calls the same way. Y'all took almost an hour out of your life to be here today. We appreciate it. The best way to benefit from it, take one idea, one thing, one story, just one thing you heard on today's call that makes sense to you. Go out and put it into practice and come back next Thursday and share your results with the group. Thank you so much, guys. Make it a great week, and we'll talk to you same time next Thursday. Take care.